First of all, take your right hand and put it on your back and say, good job, me, for hanging in. Good job, me, for all the learning. Being in the audience and listening is exhausting. It's really hard to do, so good job, you, for investing in your own development. Okay, we have an incredible panel of esteemed digital marketing experts here with us. So we're gonna go down the line and do a quick little Instagram, Twitter or X bio, because I know some of you, but not everyone. So you wanna get us started, please, sir?
I'll start. Me again. Darrell Booker with Microsoft. Actually sitting in our philanthropies division. 20-something years in tech, done a whole lot, but now focus on supporting nonprofits all around the globe in their use of technology. And believe it or not, nonprofits market, they just market differently. They market in order to get funders. So essentially the same concepts that you all are here for applies to them as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Ashley Cavazos. I am the marketing director of DeMontron Automotive Group in Houston, Texas. I've been in automotive retail for about 13 years in a number of roles, and just always trying to stay ahead from a tech space. I was actually one of the first dealerships utilizing ChatGPT for the customer experience. So I'm super excited to be here and talk with y'all today.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Craig. I'm the owner of Rhino Reviews. We manage all things reputation management and reviews, and Jim alluded to that a little bit in his presentation. We help brands with their external and their internal reviews, which is a fancy way of just saying your customer as well as your employees. And if you are around on Wednesday, we have our presentation then at 11 a.m. and I can tell you a little bit more then.
Y'all already know me. You're probably sick of hearing from me. I'm Jim McKinley, co-founder of Uncommon Logic Digital Marketing Ad Agency in Austin.
Thank you so much. I'm Erin King. I was here earlier. I'm Chief Digital Officer at Strike Point Media. We're a two-time Inc. 5000 fastest growing company in America, digital marketing agency that I started at my kitchen table with one client who had champagne taste on a beer budget. So that's my backstory. We are thrilled you're all joining us. Now, to begin the conversation, I have my list of questions that was just emailed over from earlier, but I would like to hear from each of you. When it comes to the evolution of digital marketing here at the end of 2023, whether it's email, social, AI, digital, not just at a topic level, but specifically, what's your prediction that's going to be one of the most disruptive elements when it comes to digital marketing in this industry specifically for 2024? Anyone can jump in, we don't have to go up and down, but when it comes to mind, 2024 digital marketing trends and predictions, what would you say is going to be the hottest area that we should be focusing on as business owners for 2024?
Can I start real quick?
Oh, we have a tie. Hit the buzzer. Everyone went like this.
Oh, go ahead, Darrell.
Ashley's up first.
So I think we've kind of heard a lot about it from some of y'all today on the stage, but really AI is that big forefront for us. It's tougher to staff right now, right? So how is AI going to help us with staffing and making sure the customer experience is taken care of? It's also just able to help us for a number of aspects. I actually did an AI hackathon with digital marketing experts with dealers 2 weeks ago here in Las Vegas, and we were able to put together blog posts, video, a vehicle unveiling landing page all in 30 minutes or less with AI.
It's like dominoes. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think AI is really the big piece of it. And then when you think about it from the customer experience, right? Customers don't want to wait around. Speed is of the essence for them. So 10 minutes or less is kind of what we think of for response time. We don't want to make them wait to hear the answer. So if you can link up your AI with your inventory levels and have it tell the customer exactly what's available, they don't have to wait around for a response.
Is that where you were kind of going with your?
No, that's good though.
Thank you. That's fantastic, Ashley. Thank you so much. Agreed.
I was actually going to say social media, and the slide that stuck out for me was Jim's slide, the solar system thingamabob, and just really talking about where your customers are going and not necessarily your websites anymore. And it even rang true for me, I guess, in my personal marketing life when I redid my website. If you go to it, it's literally a picture of me. You know, it says technologist, philanthropist, and some other word. I forgot the third word. And then the rest is my social media links. Because it's like, I don't, you can find out more about me and what I'm doing by going to these other platforms than necessarily my website. So I think just you all double downing on where your customers are on these other platforms, and even if you have an e-commerce website and it's like, no, we got to have our website and maintain products on our website, you're right, but you still can also sell products through some of these other vehicles, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of them allow you to do that as well.
How many of you, show of hands, are experimenting with social commerce? So actually laying transactional elements on top of your social profiles, nice and high. Okay, something to kind of take a peek at, to your point, that the website is not always necessarily that nucleus of solitary transaction, that there's all these other opportunities, to your point, to be putting your products and services in front of the social web in kind of non-traditional ways. The website's not always the first point of transaction anymore, so I think it's interesting. Chelsea, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Ooh, I agree with the social media piece as well. When I was thinking about your question with the disruptor, I went, what's something that's constantly changing? And social, I mean, even just look at the year, there's a shift in which platforms are the most relevant. But then you also think about your consumers a lot when we think about marketing. We talk about, like, who is your target customer? Where are they? What are they looking at? And just think of generations. I mean, the target customers and those bases have now grown up with phones in their hands using that. Your customer base is shifting to be more used to being online. And so you want to connect with them more, your customers are going to be the ones who are disrupting where things go.
And also mobile versus desktop. A lot of them are mobile first. No longer is it wild to think that they might be transacting with you via an app. It's not that big of a deal for them to have a better experience on a device like that. So I think that's the generational piece. Do you know your customer? Do you know what percent are the boomers versus the X versus? Go ahead.
It's so true. If you're not checking your website on a mobile device, you need to start doing that. Like, you shouldn't just audit your desktop. I think a lot of times we go straight to our desktop and we're not looking at what our website or anything is looking like mobilely.
Totally, and mobile first design, by the way, is a totally different beast, as some of you know, in terms of formatting, if it can get scrambled, it will get scrambled on mobile.
And recognizing that people's attention span. So even, when we say mobile first, like that first time they go to it, I put it this way, you probably got a scroll and a half out of anybody at that point. And it's like, okay, the attention spans aren't there anymore. So the example Jim showed you where they had the font bigger, I don't know if y'all noticed, they changed the button from sign up to join for free. Just those really eye-catching things as soon as someone goes to your website on mobile, because when you're mobile, you don't have time. We're all victim. People are on phones while they're at the stoplight or all these other places, so they don't have much time.
I'm going to push back on that for a second, because what's more boring than a panel when we all disagree with each other? So I'm going to push back. So I hear you. I think that our attention spans are shorter, but it's also true that most of us binge watch the entire season 2 of Stranger Things in your 48 hours.
Yeah, I think that talks about to the relevance of your content, though.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, precisely. So my point is that while our attention spans have gotten shorter, I think what we've experienced that the real problem is that so have our decision spans. Our tolerance for crappy content is nothing. So the idea is, like, our attention spans are shorter, but not if we grab their attention with decision-making, rich content that immediately speaks to their most pressing pain point. So when people say it's the span of a goldfish, span of a sparkle, whatever, it's not true. I mean, I waste hours on Instagram, I hate to admit, because they're drawing me in. Why? It's a cat video. I don't know, but I'm watching. So we have to just make sure that we know that it's not just short attention spans, but that it's just short decision spans. Are you offering what they need ASAP within a scroll and a half?
I totally agree. Decision span. She's exactly right.
Jim, talk to me. What do you think?
I think we've covered a lot of the stuff here about the changes in social media. I think, building on one thing that Chelsea said is that it still goes back to the basics. Marketing is all about the right message to the right person at the right time. And the question that you need to ask for your product or service is, again, like I said, where are your customers researching your product? That's where you want to make your messages. And I think the whole thing about so some of the stuff with AI helps you do some of that faster. And some of these disruptive technologies mean that where you speak to customers is changing. But I always, again, I'm from Texas, so I have to make things very easy to understand here. It just goes back to those basic questions. Who are my customers? Why do they buy? What problem are they trying to solve? and where are they researching my product or service, and that's where I want to advertise.
Well, not only who are my customers, who do I want to attract, right? You can't just look at your customer database if you want to attract.
Sorry, prospective customers,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Good clarification.
So we're talking about the #1 prediction for 2024 digital marketing trends in the automotive industry. What would you say would be a hot button that you and your team would be focusing on?
First-party data. That's the main thing we are focused on right
Say
now.
more, let's hear.
Yeah, so obviously, if you are involved in digital marketing, you're aware of things like GDPR, and I hail from the state of California, which is sort of a interesting statement itself these days because there's a lot of things happening out there, and consumer privacy is a big deal. Obviously, iOS has allowed you to, most of you probably have an iPhone, you can decide whether you want people to be able to collect your data or not, and it's certainly making our jobs as digital marketers harder. So our main talking point with every client right now starts with, we need to start this conversation with first-party data, which is essentially you as a consumer are going to have more and more control over what kind of ads can be shown to you, how much of your data can be harvested, whether you want to opt into something or not. And as marketers and people who are at the SEMA show that are selling a shop or a service, or I see like Motivicity and Motor State and some other logos here for companies that are B2B or B2C. We need to start that process now of collecting and collating and segmenting that consumer data so that we can then have an option to sell to those consumers in the future. And whether that's email marketing or SMS or through digital ads, whatever it is, but it's going to be a process, and you need to start that process now.
Show of hands, how many of you have not started that process in terms of analyzing data and guidelines and segmenting your data? Hands up if you have not started at all. This is brand new talk to you. So we can figure out how high or low to fly this plane. No shame in the game, nice and high. Because then we can kind of dig in a little, okay, about half the room. So Dan, can you, for those of us who are brand new to that conversation, what is sort of the first mistake that a lot of us make when we begin to wade into the world of data?
I think a lack of segmentation is like even if it's something simple, where like we've had clients in the past where they're collecting some version, whether they do a contest online or they're giving away like a freemium where like actually you had a great freemium in your presentation, right? So there's a QR code and hey, I'll send you an ebook and click here and that is a freemium, right? That's a great way to sort of start collecting data. And something that we see a lot is when someone participates in that kind of data collection and they just dump everything into a big bucket. And if you're not segmenting your data where you're figuring out like if, for our SEMA audience, if you're, whatever, maybe you make suspension parts and you should be segmenting it by your make model. You should be segmenting it by consumer interest. If you could segment it by geography, where if you want, a list of people from Texas versus California or F-150 owners versus Super Duty owners versus Silverado owners, whatever it is, you need to figure out however your e-com works, whatever your distribution model works, and also how your products are made and segmented internally. You need to be able to segment that data so that the next time you roll out say Toyota just came out with a new platform, they have and you want to sell that suspension lift kit for that new Tacoma. You don't want to send that message to a bunch of F-150 owners. You're just going to alienate that customer, whether it's through DM and you're throwing, ads in the feed on Instagram, or it's an email blast, or it's an SMS blast. You want to be able to actually, again, to your point, right message to the right person at the right time. And so that segmentation thing is a really big deal. But it's really hard to fix on the back end. If you have this giant pot of random data, it's really hard to go back and re-qualify that. So do it on the front end and just do it once.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you think about it from your own perspective as a shopper, right? Mass marketing email doesn't work. I mark all as read. Pretty much every day I'm not going through anything, but the moment I see a subject line that's personal to my shopping journey, right, that is referencing something that I looked at online, oh, well, let me see what they have to say. So you have to put yourself in your customer's shoes in that perspective.
It's very true. It's the dark side of automation and AI that we're all talking about. It's great. You have this incredible, funnel where you have these emails that are scheduled and you've spent so much time. But then, to your point, Dan, if you're sending a F-150 email to someone who drives something else, it can actually do more harm than good. Oh, we're automated, we're adopting, but now you have someone who's like, they don't even see me. They don't even care what I care about. So it can really kind of backfire without that segmentation. Think of it as, you have your garage and there's a bunch of crap stored in there that you haven't cleaned through in ages. It's gonna be a long Saturday to get through it all. But once you have those boxes and they're labeled with the right things, now you can find the Christmas decorations without, getting in a huge fight with your family. I mean, it really is something that does take some untangling, but beyond worth it in terms of taking them down a journey that feels relevant to them, that will ultimately convert versus getting you tossed in the ignore pile,
And it's kind of like what Jim had on his one slide about Amazon. I mean, I love going on Amazon and kind of scrolling endlessly because it's personalized and built and matched to me. I always joke, I think I'm a little bit of a marketer's dream. Like, if you put products in front of me that I want, I have no problem giving and sharing more information with you because it's relevant. But again, it all goes back to that relevant content, right place, right time for your consumers.
One of the things that I wanted to ask for the group, and it's a little more of a controversial question, is, we're here at the SEMA show. I think everybody, for the most part, is glad to be back in person, seeing people face to face and not on Zoom. At least I am. This is an industry, and if you guys get the emails from the association, I'm sure you know that we are an industry facing an evolving series of regulations and threats from a variety of things, whether it's government intervention to EV is becoming a bigger part of our lives, whether you want that or not. So we are certainly sort of an industry under some level of threat. As we sit here, a lot of the seminars are talking about, how to get carb certification, how to work with EPA, how to sort of, do all these things on the regulatory side. But on the e-com side, if you look at things like the cannabis industry, the firearms industry, these are our industries that are regulated and that already have significant barriers when it comes to digital marketing. So I guess the question for anyone who wants to tackle on the panel is, whether our audience have a local shop or they're a parts manufacturer, there's a variety of businesses here, what can they do to protect themselves and stay informed so that they never get into a situation where they're either, shadow banned is sort of a controversial word, but like you never want to get in a position where your either ads are being denied or even your organic content is being sort of pushed down because you make something that may be sort of seen as controversial.
Are you asking about the algorithm, social media algorithm?
More than just the algorithm. I mean, that is certainly part of it. But like in a lot of industries, there are certainly challenges. Like tuning is an example where tuners are a gray area right now legally. Like, are they legal? Are they not? Some states see them as a pretty serious problem. Some states don't care at all. If you are either a service that you do dyno tuning or you're a retailer and you actually sell those products, how do you create both social content but also DM programs to sort of be aware of the fact that you're staying in compliance with not just regulatory issues, but also each platform has its own internal rules as to what you can sell and how you can sell regulated products.
And again, we don't have a lot of experience with tuning products. We have not run into issues around, let me put it like this. Is that a concern? Yes, it's a concern, but I'm more worried about the broader base, like the CCPA, the privacy laws. I'm more worried about cookies going away. I'm more worried about the black boxing and the restriction of data being shared as a marketer. Those are things that are happening and are happening right now. Again, I can't speak for the tuning, but for the products that we've dealt with, those have been like, it's kind of like, should I be worried about a meteorite hitting the Earth? Well, yes, at some point, but that's right now, I don't see any meteors coming. I got to worry about global warming and worry about all these other things, watering my yard in Austin, stuff like that first.
Maybe a slightly different answer.
Sure.
I don't know. I think I maybe heard a different question, but I'm really looking at the audience and just reflecting on my time in the automotive industry, and just maybe being a broken record and saying, if a majority of the things that you've been hearing today is kind of going over your head, then you just need a really good IT person. So to his point, so that you can get ahead of those things, like having, if you're big enough, a CTO, a CIO, these are these people who are in those roles whose job is to get ahead of those things. Those are those same people that, to my point earlier, will make sure that you're collecting and owning your data so that you can do all the fabulous things that we've been talking about. You know, automotive is, you know, a very old industry, you know, a blue-collar industry, and the advancement in using tech has been slower than other industries. You know, he mentioned cannabis. Cannabis was born in the internet, social media age. So of course, everything that they're doing is in line with what we're talking about. I think there may be a bit of catching up for some of you all who own shops, who's, you know, part suppliers, and, you know, at the end of the day, you got, you know, cars and people that need to be satisfied. And you're here today because he's saying, hey, I need to be learning some of these techniques. But if you really don't have the right person on your team who can consume and act on any of this, you'll still be in the same spot, you know, months and years from now.
So, good answer, and I think you're right. So I guess hire a CTO, huh?
Or an agency,
Or an agent.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody on your team that knows.
whoever.
Yeah.
Changing tracks a little bit, you know, I've heard the words Google and Meta a lot over the last, you know, half a day, and and this is kind of, again, open conversation, question to anyone who wants to jump in, and I know we have people representing certain, you know, companies that own search engines on the panel here, so feel free to jump in, but certainly even on mobile, but certainly on computers, on desktop and laptop, you know, there is sort of, you know, obviously Google is the dominant player when it comes to search. Browsers, it seems like there's a little more diversity. When it comes to e-com, how much time should people spend both on paid search, but also on sort of the shopping side of things on a Bing versus all the different platforms? And now there's even newer ones that are sort of trying to be a little more liberated from data tracking and things like that, and whether it's, you know, DuckDuckGo and some of this other stuff, like how much time and energy should people spend on those versus kind of talking to the, you know, the behemoths?
I'll give a quick one. Depending on your audience, I mean, yeah, you know, who your customers are. I think there's a certain age group that, yes, Google and those search engines is where they go. So if that's, you know, that's who you're targeting, you need to market there. But if it's not, then you need to go to other things. I was blown away. I forgot who it was, but it was I don't know, what is it, Gen Zers? I don't even know the ages anymore. And they use TikTok as their Google.
Yep.
They don't go to Google to search for fine things. They go to TikTok. So depending upon who it is, and I think somebody said it earlier, maybe Aaron, knowing who your customers are and then optimizing for that.
I use ChatGPT as my Google these days, I hate to say. But, you know, I think to answer your question, this is a lot of technical stuff. So if anyone's feeling a little bit like, whoa, end of the day, we're getting a little bit in the weeds, let's just take a quick, like, back up, deep breath. Okay. So when you think about your media, you have your owned, your earned, your paid, right? You have these three key buckets. We have some very savvy marketers in the room right now. What's interesting about looking at your decisions, how much time you should spend, which browser, which platform, you know, who should be doing it, these questions, it's really important that you look at your existing customer base, your existing revenue. Where are you currently transacting in a pretty frictionless way? Where is your money already coming from? Taking a small moment to really evaluate, it's from these buckets, from these clients, from these sources, can be so interesting because it might not be who and where and when that you think. So just taking like a 2023 drive like high flyover 30,000 foot view. Where are they currently transacting? Where are they coming from? And what is it about your current messaging, your current optic, your current call to conversion that's working? Start with where it's already converting, what's already working, and then you can make decisions around how long to spend, where to spend time, how to shift your messaging. Do you need a rebrand? Should you be on AI? These are all big, juicy, meaty, complex questions, but we always want to be reverse engineering back from where is the money already coming in. A lot of us forget as marketers because we love storytelling and we love video and we love sexy sizzle. We forget that marketing's job is to support sales. So have you done that deep dive, roll up the sleeves, no BS, audit of where your current sales are coming from, and then does your marketing spend truly map back to those conversion points, or is it just what you think is mapping back to those conversion points because you've always done it? Like, these are very basic questions, but sometimes knowing doesn't equal doing, you know? So that's kind of a first step, I think, to answer how much time or where.
It's so true. I mean, I look back at meeting with my agency, and just to give an example, right? And we were going through, where should our spend be going? And they were like, Bing. And I'm like, who's on Bing? Everybody's on Google.
Yeah.
And then we went back and we looked at our analytics and we looked at where the customers are coming from, and a substantial amount of customers were coming from Bing. And we tried to dig into why. Well, that was a default browser, right? And so people don't know to change the browser. And so you have to make sure that you're looking at the data for that perspective to know who your customers are.
Great
Well
answer.
said.
So along the lines of, Erin had her pub analogy in her talk, and I thought that was really interesting. And so kind of along those lines, and then, and Ashley, I want to start this question with you, and then we can kind of go across anyone who wants to answer it. But, I think as marketers, especially in digital marketing, one of the things that's sort of challenging is you have to create content that impacts people, and that, that they want to, that sort of, in a way, reflects their own identity. It's something they want to engage with. It's something they identify with. It's something that they feel good about. They want a brand that sort of aligns with their values. And values can mean different things. And I feel like we live in this sort of ultra polarized world right now where everybody has an opinion about everything, and it's binary, right? You're either right or you're wrong, and people either agree with you or they're wrong, right? And automotive, I think what's kind of cool, especially about the aftermarket, is you generally want to work with brands that know who you are as a car person, and even what kind of car person you are. Maybe you're a truck guy, or you're a muscle car person, or an import person, or whatever. And so a brand has to kind of wear a lot of hats, because especially if you're a bigger manufacturing company, you have to sort of, if you're an Edelbrock or a Holley or something, you need to be able to connect with a lot of different people and a lot of different segments, and that's challenging. So you have to have a lot of content. I know you've had a lot of career experience in the dealership side of things. All due respect, I don't know a lot of people who wake up in the morning and go like, man, I can't wait to go to the car dealership and negotiate to buy a car. Like, that's just not a particularly fun or exciting prospect for most people. So when you're working on marketing plans, when you're working with your agencies, when you're coming up with, when you're ideating all this stuff, and you're coming up with both organic content, paid content, all the stuff in the digital funnel, how do you approach that to come up with stuff that people, so it's not just based on price or inventory, how are you building a campaign that will connect with somebody emotionally that makes them want to do business with your group?
There's something that's been kind of circling through the dealership side for about the past 2 years. There was a quote that somebody said, and I think we all related to it, that it's kind of spread so much so that I'm wearing a bracelet that says it, but it's love people more than you love cars. And that is really what drives me in this industry. It's why I didn't wake up one day and I was like, I want to work in a dealership. That's what I'm going to do, right? A lot of us, we don't think of it that way. It's really, you fall in love with the people. And so when you think of it from a content side, that really is a root of what we do, and why we love it is we think about our communities and the customers that we're helping, and building content for them that's going to serve them, and working through that way of building your brand. It's silly, some of the things that we see. TikTok has taught us a lot, but we'll do unwrapping videos of getting a car off the transport truck, and we're unwrapping that, right? Like, what if you had a hood and you just showed, like, what does a hood look like when it arrives off the truck, and how do you take it out of the box, and what does it, do from there? But it's these little things that you can build with your community by kind of the theme, I think, of today is knowing your audience and knowing your customers. And if you understand that community, building your content around that.
Go ahead.
I think taking it one step even deeper, because it's about the people. Like, brands are trying to create a community with your audience and with your people. And when I think of content that's resonated with me, it's emotional. It makes me happy. It makes me feel something. I mean, even the way you just described unwrapping, the cars. I think of someone getting a new car, all those experiences and those feelings. So creating content that resonates with your audience in an emotional way.
Also, the micro stories we have found just crush, especially on social, like on your TikToks. We did a campaign with the Auto Care Association. I don't know if they're associated with this convention or not, but or if we're allowed to say other associations, which probably I should check with Pamela. But when we did a campaign for them, we were sort of talking a lot about the fact that a car is very closely linked with human identity. right? Like when you select a car, you're essentially saying that this is an automotive version, of me. If you drive a Prius, it says one thing. You drive a G-Wagon, it says something else. You drive a truck, it says something else. And there's an element of pride in that identity that we associate with the vehicles that we drive. There's an element of the emotional component of a car can be a milestone moment, a car can be celebratory, a car can be a marker of keeping score with hard work, with moments that you've been aspiring for. I mean, there's so many stories that I don't think we do a good enough job mining for. And when we did this campaign with Auto Care Association, we simply had some great story starters with our top clients. So took our top 5 to 10% repeat buyers, repeat clients, and we just talked about things like, tell me the first time you ever this, like the first time you ever remember the smell of your dad's car. Tell us the first time that you ever walked into a car buying space, but you were going to actually be the buyer. Tell us about the time where things got a little heated in the negotiation. How'd you hold the line? Tell us about the first time where you ever were able to either gift a vehicle, or tell us the first time you watched a commercial that made you want to aspire. Like, tell us the first time, that first time prompt. For us, we were able to dig up these gems that were literally 60 to 90 second micro stories, putting a microphone and a spotlight on those human moments that if one of our clients have had it, maybe more of them have. So those shareable stories where your customers can see themselves in someone else's journey is a really simple place to start if you're not sure what kind of customer stories you want to tell beyond, Fred did a great job, it was a great experience, right? That one level deeper into those specifics can make for that rich content that can spark the engagement that you're looking for. That's what we did.
Ron, what do you think?
Talking about dealership, there's a word that's coming to my mind called transparency, and back to decision span. So I was determined to get a fully electric vehicle. So tried them all. I went to Genesis and Lexus and Mercedes, BMW. Every one of them, spent times on sites, all of that. Guess which one I got?
Tesla.
Tesla. Want to know why? Because I didn't go to Tesla's site and I saw one price for the lease, and by the time you go and talk to the people and whatever, it's something totally different, or they didn't have the inventory, or this or that. I mean, to the penny. On Tesla's website, the cost is the cost of the car. And, in this day and age, I feel like people just want to be associated with brands that they can trust and not feel like you're getting bamboozled every time you go visit their site and then you find out something else.
Tesla didn't just try to get you in.
Exactly.
No, they didn't. Their whole thing is you don't have to come in. You can buy the car on your app. On your
Right,
phone.
drop it in the driveway.
When was the first moment in that exchange where you were like, oh my God, I'm about to buy a Tesla? Like, when was the moment where
She's
you
gonna do a
saw
micro
yourself?
story on you
So
right now.
it was, and it was because I did all the websites, and then I went into the different dealerships, and I've had many cars over my life, and I was prepared for every one of those that I went into. Steel of armor. You're not going to try to. But when I went to the Tesla place, it was basically like being at just an electronics store or something.
Like Apple.
It's like, hey, this is the product. This is how much it costs. We're just here. Basically, they're there just to guide me to use the computer to be able to pick out the car, the same thing that I can do at home. And then that was the moment. It was like, this is just easy for me. It just feels right. It doesn't feel like a sleazy salesman. So
one of the things that resonated with me today is the Copernicus explanation you gave, Jim. I thought that was really interesting about how your website is not the center of the universe anymore. The customer is, right? And that kind of reflects what you're saying, Darrell, about the Tesla experience, right? And one of the challenges that I've found with digital marketing and social selling and everything, where the consumer never actually gets to touch the product or the service until it's actually delivered and they've already made that purchase decision through DM, is it's pretty easy for things to get commoditized, where whether you're selling truck suspension lift kits or whatever, widgets. Online, they all kind of look alike. It's pretty easy to kind of see. I mean, your Amazon feed is a pretty easy example of that, right? You type in, you want toilet paper, and it's all white, and it's all round, and it all looks kind of like the same. So as we build these campaigns, how do you differentiate your product through content and through storytelling? What is the best shortcut to do that so someone realizes, is it through your brand values? Is it through features and benefits? Is it through price? How do you differentiate so that the consumer sees your product, your service, your ad on social, on search, wherever they see it, remarketing, and says, I align with this, I'm going to make this purchase, versus the one that looks just like it, that's sitting next to it on Google Shopping?
I would say finding the surprising why you. The surprising reason why you. We did a campaign with Hitachi, and they make MRI scanner machines, totally different than automotive. But they're not the biggest player in the space. They have, all these huge competitors. They have, Samsung and all these other huge ones, Philips. And what we found was that we interviewed their top customers. So Hitachi's like top repeat buyers. I'm like, okay, Hitachi's not the best, not the biggest. They're not the cheapest. So why do you buy them and not, the Philips and the GE and the LG and all these big competitors? And what we found in just doing a very simple round of top customer interviews was that the reason that people would buy from Hitachi was because they were one of the only big brands left that when you called for a service question, a human being answered the phone and not an automated tell me, press 1, press 2, press 900 for this, right? So we didn't realize that. It sounds so simple, but an actual human answers a landline in 2023. Can you imagine, right? And that was the reason that they like to buy from them, was like, if they have a problem, I can talk to a human when I call them, like it's the 90s. Like, how refreshing is that?
So do you put that in the ad?
So we put it in the ad.
Like a human will answer your call?
Yes.
Okay, that's a great answer.
So I know. So we're like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm giving it. So anyway, my point is, what is your version of we have a human that answers a landline? Like, what is the sneaky reason that your top customers go back to when you're not the cheapest and you're not the biggest? Because you have one, I promise you.
Mine along the same line, customer experience and things of that sort. But in this day and age where we are succumbed to Amazon and Amazon Prime, and I just moved somewhere, I get stuff the same day now, y'all. It's like crazy. And if you think about when you go on Amazon, and how many of y'all just immediately click the Prime filter?
I do.
Right. So now you look at the Prime filters, and then you go and say, okay, this one says it'll be here Wednesday. This one says it'll be here tomorrow. I want this one. And at the end of the day, your mind has basically been trained that it's probably the same product. I just want the one that's the fastest and the price makes the most sense for me. So, that's some of the things that may be the only thing that differentiates you from someone else is, maybe you can just get it faster to them. You follow what I'm getting at? Like, that could be enough to win someone over another brand.
Price is not, I think so many times we go to price, right? Like, I gotta be the lowest, I gotta be the lowest. But customers are willing to pay for a quality experience, even if it's not the cheapest price out there. And I think that's something to remember. Shop your market, see what's out there, but seeing if you can get it there faster. What's the quality of the customer experience? I will pay more for that. Transparency. I lived in the Twin Cities for 10 years. We were very much a one price kind of market for car buying. We were never the cheapest, but people came to us because we were transparent. And they knew we weren't going to be the lowest, but they knew what they saw online was going to be what they paid for the car.
Or like your story from earlier. You guys went on social media to find a part that no one else could find. Like, that's a great, sneaky why you. Like, does your partner, will they go and source it somewhere else? If it's in the world, we're going to find it, even if it's not in our shop. Like, that's a compelling, unique differentiator that maybe not every shop has. So those kind of questions, like, do you really know your spicy why? The spicy why you,
You're calling it the why in the exact same way. We talk a lot about it as like pain point. Like, what's the problem that you're solving for your customers that maybe other people aren't? What's their pain? And then talking about that through your marketing.
Yeah.
Jim, you got anything?
I think they covered. The way I like the idea about the surprising insight. We always start with we have a phrase. It's an acronym. It's WIFM. What's in it for me? And that's ultimately what all of your customers are asking. They don't care about you. They don't care. It's kind of like your insight about, who uses Bing? Well, some of your customers always, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. So like in the case of the Hitachi and picking up the phone, there's obviously a concern or a desire in the market of having someone wanting the need to be able to talk to a human, and that's what the surprising insight that you revealed. And so how did you reveal it? By talking to customers. I think that's a great way to go about it. So what's in it for me with them?
Cool. I'm going to go down the row here, so we'll start with Jim.
Uh-oh.
What's the biggest mistake you have personally made with your own digital marketing?
With our own digital marketing, you mean like for our agency or for one of our clients?
Either or. Ideally for your own agency if you do it for yourself, or are you the dentist that,
The cobbler that has.
yeah, are you the, yeah, right. Are you the dentist with cavities? What's the?
I would say the biggest problem, and I would say both for us and I see for clients. I'm going to put it on one of either scale. One mistake that I think we made for ourselves as an agency, and I see a lot of our customers make the mistake of, and that's the over-reliance on one channel. So if you're really strong in SEO, or you're really, are doing great, on Instagram or whatever, it becomes very easy to put more and more and more effort into that until you start seeing the law of diminishing returns. And so that's why one of the things I talked about earlier is you always have to be testing. So I'm not saying don't stop doing something that's working, but making sure that you're also putting some other lines in the water along the way. I'll stop there.
Oh, I've got too many to list. I'm still going in my head, both personally as well as what I see customers make. I think I'll also copy you and say customers versus ourselves that we've done. One of the biggest mistakes for customers is just not doing the basic things. I think sometimes people, I think you mentioned that like AI and ChatGPT, it's the new buzzword. It's kind of like the new Bitcoin. It's this big thing that we kind of all somewhat understand, but not really. And I think we'll see businesses latch on to these great new technologies or tools and think, oh, I've got to do that, I've got to figure that out. When in reality, there are so many just basic, simple things that will drive dramatic results for your business that aren't being done. I mean, literally, like your Google My Business listing. Make sure your hours are right, your phone number is correct, and it's going to the right address. Like really back to basics. Post consistently. Just the things we all know we should do, but they're not fun. It's not entertaining, so we don't do it. Myself personally in our company, we've definitely also made a lot of marketing mistakes. I was laughing at some of the slides you put up that we've run them down. I think at the moment the biggest one is, you were talking about kind of like making investments in marketing without things kind of being set up from a tracking, from a website, all of that. We're calling the kettle black and try to go with the additional themes. We've definitely done that on our end as well too.
I think for me, it's a little twist we haven't really talked too much about, and it's not so much on the customer side, but the team side. So I've done some very big digital marketing campaigns, and I have not communicated it with the entire team, and the people who are actually talking to the customers get a phone call or they get a lead, and they can't, they don't know what's happening with that promotion, so they can't deliver it. So I think that's one thing that we have to remember we're doing from a marketing perspective is, does everybody on your team know what's getting put out there? Because when they get that phone call and a customer is mentioning the campaign they saw, can they reference it and know what they're talking about? Are they like where did you see it? Like, what was it? That's the worst thing that can happen to a customer, right? Is that they have that interaction and then all of a sudden, and we have to remember today's generation, you make one mistake, you're dead to them and you're dead to all their friends, right? So we have to make sure that we're delivering all across the board. I think those are probably some of the biggest mistakes I've done from a digital marketing perspective.
I think for me, blowing a bunch of money on paid social media or paid media in general that didn't work. And that was one, trusting that the particular agency understood our very niche audience, and they didn't. And they finally came back afterward and said, yeah, we don't really know how to target that audience. And I'm like, okay.
Thank you.
Give me that $30,000. Regrouped, said, okay, sticking to my, my guts and what I know, and, here's better creative, and, You know, I want to now target all the social media platforms, and did another kind of run at it, a lot less money, and had minimal success. And that came from, again, not really understanding what I was, my call to action and the platforms. And I'll give you a prime example. Not too many people leave TikTok in terms of they watch it, they consume. A lot of consumers don't click links and leave TikTok. So I had a call to action in the ad that sent them to a website. Well, that's not what TikTok, people don't do that on TikTok. Much more on Facebook or some of these other platforms. So that was another kind of mistake in thinking that ads could be one size fit all across all platforms, and that's not the case.
That's a great example, by the way. Trying to reroute them to operate the way you'd like them to versus fishing where the fish are and following their lead. That's a huge insight, by the way. Does everyone hear that? They don't want to go to your website if they're on social media, for the most part. So, okay, oh God, I don't know how much time we have, but I have run digital marketing campaigns from everyone from the Oscars in Hollywood to the United States Navy, Hilton, Adobe, Visa. I've been hired by Merck. I mean, Hilton, you name a campaign, I have made 100,000 expensive mistakes in the last 15 years. The biggest problem that I see across all verticals, industry agnostic, is the irresistible temptation to throw marketing dollars at sales problems, thinking that if you just spend more, it'll fix the core of the sales issue. It's so tempting. How could this not work? If we throw $100,000 at this thing and we have a strategy that an agency had a fancy slide deck and convinced us was gonna be the answer. Instead, I wish I could do this, go back in time and do this. Every single time we have a key strategic game plan where we have mapped out our primary and secondary audiences, we've mapped out our core products, we understand the key messaging, we understand our conversion points, we've outlined KPIs, we know what success looks like, we know what the ceiling looks like before we raise to the next level of spend. All of these key, critical, strategic, non-AI sourceable questions. At the core of that is testing and learning with teeny amounts of dollars. You can get so many key insights from the smallest little test campaign. I don't care if you're spending $10 on Facebook, $20 on Instagram. You can get those insights with very small test and learn, iterate, apply results. Test and learn, iterate, apply results. And above all, copycat campaigns are a hard no. To your point earlier, just because it worked for them, it could have been the timing, the audience, the product, Mercury's in retrograde, who knows? But copycat campaigns should not be at the core of your strategic decisions, particularly when you're putting precious marketing dollars on the line.
Can I just double click on what she said, especially on money, and you can get insights with little data. I got bad advice that, we need to run this campaign for 30 days before you, and the inner geek in me was like, huh? Like, you're gonna be collecting data hours into this.
Yes.
Like, I wanna peel into the data right away, because if it's not right, I wanna be able to pivot.
Doesn't lie.
Right. The
Put into
data
Power BI.
Yeah,
See some graphs.
But you have to look at the data yourself and not trust what somebody else is
And that's
telling
it,
you to.
yeah.
That's the
Write
other
that down.
key part of it is you have to see the data because they are easily going to tell you the best way of looking at the data that's going to work for them.
Yeah, they'll find the story they want to tell, right?
Great answers. I think we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So we got a couple of mics here who, all right, there we go.
I see a lot of ads for digital marketing agencies, and most of them say, are you sick of wasting your money with digital marketing agencies that don't work? How do I find one that does work?
Call us. No, just kidding.
So the question is, how do you find an agency that's not going to waste your money? Is that, okay, that's a...
Okay, serious answer to that question,
Yeah.
for real. Serious answer, because we also hire agencies to help us in areas that we're not strong. The number one thing that you can do is you can ask if you can please speak to their 3 top clients. And you interview their clients. Why are you with them? Why did you renew? Why are you on retainer? What were the real results they were able to create for you? And if they stutter step and you feel a little hesitancy there, run.
Two other things there. First off, you typically, part of it is you want to find an agency that works with clients that are a similar size of yours. So you don't, like if you have agencies that tends to work with emerging brands and you have a brand that is spending way more than all of their other clients, that's generally not a recipe for success. The other thing that you can do that we always love is if you're going through a process with an agency, ask to meet the actual team that's going to be working on your account.
Yep.
Because so many big agencies, they have a whole sales team and then the ops team. Two separate things, and you get like the really fancy, slick sales folks, but then they hand it off to the intern, you know, or whatever. So ask to speak to the actual team that will be working on your account.
Yeah, if I can add to that, you know, not only the team, but then ask what are their roles, exactly what they be doing, so that you understand who's on that team. But the other thing I would add is be very specific in your ask of an agency. Another mistake I made was just, you know, hey, let me just find someone who can do it all. You come back, you give me a strategy, you do the creatives, you execute, you do everything. And then I look up, you know, 45 days later, and they're still in their discovery, and after they finish their discovery, I spent, you know, a bunch of money for them just to turn around, to give me a deck of everything that I told them in discovery.
Yeah.
And that was just a complete waste of time. So really narrowing down what you want the age, and be confident in what you're the expert in. You follow me in that? They don't know what you know. So be confident in what you're the expert in and say, all right, here's the thing that I need your help with.
It's really good, Daryl. I mean, honestly, like Jim and I had this conversation before we even started this morning, and it's like every agency is not going to be great at that core competency that you're looking for. And if they can't answer, because every agency says they can do everything, because everyone can do everything. Everyone's a one-stop shop. So to both of your points earlier, it's like, right, but like what are your 2 or 3 core key competencies? Like, what are you known for? What's your real jam? Oh, we do it all. All right, but like what are the 1 or 2 areas that, like, for being totally honest, you either partner with other agencies or you can do it, but it's not your absolute core skill set. Like for us, we're okay at SEO. We're okay at SEO. We're not the best at SEO. And I say that straight up to my clients. I'm like, but we know a killer SEO agency. This is what they live and breathe and eat and sleep. So those are good questions to ask in terms of making sure that you're really honing in on what they really are actually good at versus what their slick deck says, right? So yeah.
Another question in the audience right there? Go ahead.
Hi, my question is regarding using AI to create content, whether it's for the post or specifically for like landing pages on a website. I was told, and I'm coming to understand that maybe this is not correct, am I going to be penalized by search engines from using AI for content specifically for landing pages if I'm making like custom landing
From what
pages?
I have discovered is if you have to be the first, right? Like if you're not the first from an SEO perspective, and if somebody else has similar content out there, right? Because AI is kind of repetitive. It's pulling stuff from everywhere. Y'all probably have greater data than I do, but that is what I've learned on my discovery is you have to be the first out there with that content.
To reference a classic automotive show, like Ricky Bobby always says, if you're not first,
You're the last.
correct.
And I would say too, I think you're probably using it wrong if that's what you're doing. There's a reason why as Microsoft we've coined all of our AI. First of all, if people don't know, ChatGPT was created by OpenAI, which is a nonprofit, and Microsoft is the biggest investor in OpenAI. So when you think of Microsoft tools, we're talking ChatGPT. But from a public standpoint, it's all called Copilot. Why? Because it's not meant to do it for you. It's supposed to, you know, generate something, and then you go in and you edit it and you make it yours. So if you're using it as if it's a co-pilot, then you will never have the same as anybody else anyway.
Brainstorm buddy, we call it.
Yeah, it gets rid of that writer's block, right? Like if you're stuck, I mean, that's what I love it for. I'm thinking of a social media post and I'm like, oh gosh, here's what I want to say. Let me throw it into ChatGPT, it throws it out, and let me make this edit. Here we go, ready to go.
It is the opinion of our agency that if you are posting ChatGPT articles, that is being recognized by the search algorithms and are being devalued. So the whole thing is they want original, unique content. So Aaron, like your pub methodology is a great one to think about. It needs to be personal to you. So you can use ChatGPT to seed, to overcome writer's block, but you can't, if you're cutting and pasting, you may even see some short-term success. Over the long term, you will not see success.
Right, I appreciate that. Just quick follow-up question. I know
Sure.
this mic has to go to other people, of course. So to what degree, because we say modify, and it kind of gets us started, to what degree do we need to modify or edit that content to make it where it's acceptable for these search engines and you won't be penalized?
You want me to go? Okay, so, all right, let's talk about acceptable. So what is your goal with the content? Like, if you just want to rank, that's one whole strategy. If you actually want to create engaging content that has any shareability potential at all, that's a different topic. This was kind of my point earlier around like earned, owned, and paid. You want to reverse engineer from your conversion point, your revenue point, your goal. Like, do you actually want to create content that gets shared, or do you just want to rank? Okay, well, that's two totally different strategies, right? So when it comes to prompt engineering, which is what you're talking about, so prompt engineering, essentially what you're putting into the AI tool to get the output that you want. The more specific the input, the more specific your output. The more precise your prompt, the better the result. You can't put in a prompt that's long enough. Give us every single detail about the 37th cousin and the 5th place and what happened on the 4th day. The more information, the absolute better. You also want to make sure as you're iterating through each step that you are working with this brainstorm buddy with, what was the phrase you guys used?
Copilot.
Copilot, thank you, with your Copilot. You want to make sure that you're going round after round to find the most value that you can deliver. A great way to use ChatGPT, by the way, is for you to use a dictation app on your phone, so any kind of voice recording that you have on your phone, and speak to a problem. So speak to the biggest problem that your customers have. Okay, well, what we do is we say this, and then we say this, and then we do this, and blah, blah, blah. It'll give you back how you would say it. If you were human to human, where you're 34 times more persuasive, as we talked about, you'll have this entirely beautiful written out component that you can then dump into ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, why don't you make me 20 Instagram posts based on this long component that I just shared with you of how I solve my clients' problems. Okay, it's gonna spit it back, 10 different posts. It's gonna be crap because ChatGPT is trained on the crap that's all over the internet. So then you wanna go back and say, okay, post by post, how do I open with something truly personal to my audience? How do I offer something truly useful, and am I keeping it brilliantly, blessedly brief? You can even ask ChatGPT to try its best. It will. You'll then see it starting to slowly get better, get better. Our marketing team, we go at least 5, 6, 7 rounds if you're trying to create content at scale that's actually engaging, it's actually helpful. Because keep in mind, if you're just doing social for social's sake and just to check the box, that's your precious time that you're wasting, and you're not making the needle move anyway. So thinking through like your objectives, that's a totally different strategy from just, I want to rank on Google. I mean, that's keyword stuffing. That's, is anyone reading this article? Does it stay on page 1 if no one ever clicks on it? Like, so you got to work backward from that key KPI. That's the first question you want to answer.
And y'all don't miss the gem she gave you where she was like, it's one thing just to ask ChatGPT to spit out something and it gives you, but you can ask it to spit out something based upon some data you give it.
Yeah.
And then you have much, much more relevant answer from ChatGPT.
And make sure you fact check it. We've seen over and over again, and I think Erin even referenced the lawyer thing in her talk, but I mean, I did a prompt a few weeks ago where I asked it to help me with a blog post, and I asked it to look for source material on certain sites, and it faked them. It made up fake source material. So, according to this thing in the Wall Street Journal, it totally wasn't real. It just made it up.
Yeah.
So make sure you really fact check your stuff before you put it up.
Just as you're constantly learning it, it's learning you as well, right? So that's the other thing to remember is as you continue to work with it, it's going to learn how you're working with it as well, and you'll start to find it mending with you, and utilizing those plugins to what Darrell said, like that's going to be the key piece of helping you out with that content.
Yeah. There's a great plugin called AIMPRM. Do you guys ever try that plugin?
Question.
AIMPRM, that's a plugin that you guys
Jump to
can
the
write
next
that
one.
down and check it out. You can do different tone of voice, different style, different people. It can give different personality. So you can start to hone how it actually sounds, not just what it's saying.
Go ahead.
AIMPRM.
Sorry, your
Pamela, we
microphone
need
now?
like an AI panel on this, by the way.
There you go.
AIMPRM?
That working?
right?
There we go. Okay, just one quick tip and one quick question, just because it answers that guy's question, I think, pretty well. We don't use AI to write anything for us, but we get it to write outlines of things for us. Then it gets
Great
us
way.
off the blank page, and then we can quickly fill in the personal, useful details.
I like that.
But it helps a lot, and it can make our work a lot faster. What I was going to ask about, though, is with AI, a lot of it now can ingest your own materials and your own personal product stuff, but I find a lot of that's being put behind paywalls for AI. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, because we're being bombarded with requests to, not only use AI, but to pay for it. And are you finding that what's behind the paywalls is worth the money for using AI? Or is it, my 16-year-old, when I told him we're spending so much on using AI, he's like, Dad, I could teach you to do that all for free. And I'm like, okay, but I don't have the time to learn all that necessarily. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are in terms of the paid access to AI and how much more helpful that is over the free stuff.
I think it depends. You gotta vet it. You gotta vet it out. Some isn't. Some of them is back to those vultures.
Vultures.
When ChatGPT when it first hit, and those first apps that you saw in the App Store, and they were charging you, all they was charging you was the same thing if you went to openai.com and created an account. They wrapped it in something, they threw it in, and for them, it was just a money grab for you. So it really depends. Like, there's gonna be some stuff that's really great, and some stuff is just, they're just preying on people that don't know better.
Yeah, like there is one that I'll pay for. It's called Vizsla, and Vizsla will create videos for me with voiceovers and everything, and that is worth every dollar that I put into it.
Yeah, it's my understanding that ChatGPT 3 versus 4, really it comes down to like if you're using it to like code a website for you, that's a 4 thing. But if you're just looking for copy prompts, 3 can do it and it's free. And there's also like we use Adobe a lot, and like one of our team members actually, we a client got promoted to CEO, and we asked for a headshot, and the headshot that they sent over was like rough. And we're like, I can't use this. And we just, and just Adobe's tools that are part of their cloud platform cleaned it up. It looks great. They put him in a suit, cleaned up the background. He was happy. To me, like if you're already paying, or like Microsoft, I mean, I kind of wish you guys included it in the cloud since we're already paying a service fee every month, but it's worth it. So it kind of depends on what your needs are.
We have a question down here.
Yeah. So, how do you recommend we can together bridge the gap between the extremely smart and like reputable techs or the shop owners, the ones that are kind of hard-headed, and why should I go with an agency versus correctly use the AI to gain face value, trust, and somehow measure ROI or create an effective game plan?
Let's summarize that question.
Yeah, let's pick one first.
It's a two-part thing. So how can we convince the shop owners, the techs, which myself I'm considered a partner within the company, but to be able to bring in these ideas to them and get them to understand that AI and correctly leveraging technology is the future.
What kind of shop do you work for?
Restyling, so anything aftermarket.
So you're looking for a consumer funnel. You want to bring in.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you get both the techs who are doing the work and also the higher ups at your company to sort of buy into using this technology, potentially using an agency to bring in more customers?
And how can we, like you said, because AI, and I completely agree, a lot of the times that you put in a prompt, it's going to BS you 20 to 30% of the time. When you bring that to face value to a C-level conversation, it's like, how can we effectively, you know what I mean?
Yeah, raise your hand if you're at the C level or around there in your organization in the room. Raise your hand nice and high, C levels. Okay, so the language that we speak is the language of time and the language of money. If you can show one use case that will save them either of those most precious assets, show, don't tell. Let that do the talking. We had a whole situation with one of our clients. They're a huge real estate company. They're in like 10 different countries. And the CFO was like, hell no, this is too expensive. We're not going to overhaul this, blah, 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 in our CRM, whatever. We literally did one demo where we showed that automating 2 tasks was going to increase customers served by hour, 4 times the customers served by hour with like half the headcount. And immediately all we had to do was demonstrate one case study of saving time, saving money, and it was like, say no more. Like all of a sudden, it wasn't expensive anymore, right? So can you just find that one use case and let it speak for itself? That's what worked for us. I don't know about y'all, but.
Yeah, she was in my head again. This is very agnostic to anything. To get adoption to technology is solve someone's biggest headache. And if it's something that's dealing with time, they will be open and they will listen. The other thing is money. And like I said, I was doing some stuff, and I had to show them that this could make $20 more a part, and they quickly did the math and say, wait a minute, we sell hundreds of parts a day. What is this thing you're talking, Darrell? And then at that point, it convinced them to do anything we wanted.
And don't bury the lead. Lead with that. What if I could show you how we could, whatever this, and then they're like, go on, right? Then they're leaning forward. But lead with that, personal to them, useful, how, then keep it brief. It costs this, we're doing it Tuesday, or do you want it next month? A or B?
I mean, the way you're approaching it is almost how you've outlined marketing and the content to your customers and kind of flipping that back. I mean, you're trying to speak to them in what's relevant and what matters to the C-suite to make those decisions, no different than you speak to your customer to make the decisions.
Great. Next question.
And this is, you mentioned it when Dan briefly spoke before, and you were talking about, or you were about to say about the algorithm, the social media algorithm, this magical unicorn that everyone's trying to guess. I identify as a 20-year-old multi-millionaire TikToker.
Sweet.
The reality is I'm a 60-year-old guy on a limited budget for my company. How can we maximize, or is there this fabled social media algorithm? We're all there trying to put hashtags, tagging people. Is it 3 hashtags? Is it 20 hashtags? Is it just do it on a Monday, do it on a Sunday in your underpants? We're all guessing. Is there this fabled algorithm, or is it just?
You want to take it?
It's all about personality, I would say.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to out-algorithm the algorithm.
Yes.
Yeah.
1, they keep them a secret, and 2, they will change it in a minute, and you will be 6 months later before you're figuring it out. I think 2 things that you should just really focus on is being authentic and consistent.
Yes.
Whatever it is, just be authentic and just keep doing it, and stop second guessing. I think a lot of times we have this fear of, oh, is this the perfect post? It doesn't matter. Just if this sings your company and what you all are doing, just be consistent. Don't worry about if it's quirky. The most quirkiest things go viral. So just be authentic and consistent.
People love bloopers.
Touche, absolutely. The third thing on top of that, I would say, so authentic and consistent is great, but like that's very frustrating to be authentic and consistent and still get crickets. Like, it's like, oh, hey, just go to the gym every day and work out for an hour a day. And like, you might get stronger, you might not, but just keep at it. It's like, ugh, where's the payoff, right? So what I would say is if there is something that is very important to your organization, you're having a massive product launch, you're opening up a new brick and mortar location, you have an incredible new key stakeholder on the team, you have a new badass partnership, whatever it is, if there's something that's high stakes for you where you're like, you know what, we need some freaking reach on this announcement. This is really important to us. What we've done in the past is we will create what we call an influencer pod, which is essentially we mine through all the different buyers and customers of a certain brand. And we'll reach out to those top 10, 20, and 30. And we'll say, hey, you guys, on Wednesday at 10, we are rolling out this product. It's really important to us. This is not a scalable everyday kind of thing, but it's like a once a quarter, once a year kind of thing, or whenever it's important to you. So we have our 20 or 30 influencers. They are people that are maybe micro-influencers. They have 1,000, 2,000 followers, but they're highly engaged. Because a lot of times people that have a smaller following actually have higher reach because the algorithm knows they're not trying to make money on Instagram. They just literally have 1,000 friends. And so like my sister has like no followers and she'll get like 800 likes. I have 50,000 and I'll get like 100 because the Instagram knows that I really want reach. That's part of my business. So they're like, no, pay for it, right? My sister doesn't care. So they give her all the reach that she wants and she doesn't even notice, okay? So the influencer pod is really important. So get 20 or 30 customers, people that love your brand, that have a small following, and what you do is you basically ask them if they'll be a part of the brand launch. So you say, the key is within 1 hour of posting, you guys probably know this, but like, hey, I'm gonna tag you as a collaborator. I'm going to invite you to this post, or I'm gonna text you this post. Can you do us a favor? It's Wednesday, we're launching it at 10. If within like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, would you possibly be amenable to resharing it? Since you love us, you love our brand, would you be part of our family of getting this word out there at scale? If you can get 10, 20 people that are all gonna reshare your post within about 30, 45 minutes, it's grassroots, it's guerrilla, it's not pretty, it's a lot of work, but if you're really thirsty for reach and you're really frustrated that authentic and consistent is not paying off, that's a quick way to at least get that one post where you trigger the algorithm to say, hey, this matters, people care about it, and then you can pin that at the top of your profile, so at least if someone new comes to your profile, the first one they click on has some juicy reach, has like some real metrics. Maybe they scroll down and see all the other dusty ones that had 20 likes or whatever, but at least you get that first one. Again, the optic, to your point, you have a scroll and a half to make a big splash. So not a scalable daily strategy, but for those big moments that count, you gotta recruit the buddies. You gotta get the ambassadors on board.
Quick counterpoint, and then we have time for one more question. But I will also say the algorithm is not mysterious black box. It is to some degree, but you have to keep in mind that these are all businesses. And as long as you remember that their business model is constantly changing and their business is keeping you scrolling on that feed and interacting with their content so they can keep delivering more ads, you can actually modify your behavior with how you use the platform to increase your likelihood of increasing your reach. So like you mentioned hashtags and how many hashtags should I have? Well, right now, if your primary platform is Instagram, hashtags are really only relevant if people are looking for a specific type of content. Like if you're using hashtag SEMA Show 2023, that's probably a good way to get people to find your stuff if they're on that platform looking for SEMA Show coverage because they're not in Vegas this week. But is that gonna create like virality? No. Right now, Instagram is competing with TikTok. That is their main business competitor. So they have trending audio and Reels as the primary focus of their algorithm. If you're producing more Reels and you're using a lot of trending audio because they're trying to compete with TikTok, your content is going to perform better than if you don't. So it's not a hack. It's just remember that this is a business that you're participating in and they're trying to make money. You know, on LinkedIn, a quick, easy cheat right now is follow 100 people that have over 100,000 followers that are somewhat related to what you do for a living, and just start saving their posts that go viral. Every once in a while, everyone has that breakout post, especially if they have over 100,000 followers. Save all the posts that actually start to get a lot of reach. A couple months from now, start going back and looking at all those posts you've saved, and by then you should have hopefully a couple hundred of them, and start looking at them. And the chances are, and I've done this experiment myself, you're gonna start seeing like, oh, the Steve Jobs post keeps coming up. It's a Steve Jobs quote that someone keeps using, and 3 different people posted it and it got virality all 3 times. There's a reason. The algorithm knows that that post is gonna get a lot of interaction. And you can start, if you wanted to, because again, that gets away from being authentic, right? But you can start modeling your content based on some of that stuff and it will probably increase reach. But again, you gotta stay authentic. I think that's totally true. We have time for one more question.
Over here, over there.
We have 2 more now.
All right, can we get a mic over here, far side of the room? Oh, sorry, right there. Go ahead.
Over there too. There's a
Yeah,
guy over here,
you all spoke about creative agencies a lot. I was popping in and out of different seminars, but there was a study done, and it basically mentioned that usually many business owners, when they're looking to go paid social, they go through 4 different agencies or paid social reps before they find the right one. How can you all basically help us find that quicker and not have to go through 4 and thousands of dollars that's wasted?
We kind of addressed this a little bit earlier. You got to kiss a lot of frogs sometimes to find that prince. But we did talk a little bit earlier about a few techniques that you can use to better source your agency. I think we kind of already answered that question. But we can give you the one-on-one afterwards so we can make sure to get to this guy so we're not repeating content.
And I was just
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I would just say, just set yourself up to be able to fail fast and pivot. So one thing that you may do with any agency, you know, don't get locked into some big ambiguous amount and you don't have anything that you can measure against. Make them give you like milestone deliverables, you know? So maybe 2 weeks into it, just a few $100s, if they're not performing, cut them loose at that point. That way you're not even wasting more time.
Agreed. Define the win in the very first conversation before you engage.
Yeah, I give my agencies a KPI every time. I'm like, these are the KPIs I expect. This is the timeline I expect it in. And then if we don't hit it, we're going to have a very serious conversation about the money I'm going to continue paying you.
One of the things that Aaron said earlier about marketing your ambassadors, we had an incident worked really great with us. We're a veteran-owned shop. In the area that we're in, we had 3 of our other competitor shops got into a marketing campaign to promote local businesses, not veteran businesses. We took a large hit, lost a lot of revenue. We done what she said, went out to our ambassadors, our veteran-based customers, and started promoting that stuff. They started sharing it, and we almost tripled sales off of the stuff that we lost because of.
That's great.
Round of applause for that, and thank you for your service, sir.
All right. I think, is that it?
Is that it?
That's it.
Any more questions?
Let's thank our panel, everybody.